I love great conversations. Hi, my name is Angel Jones. Thank you for joining me on 12-minute convos where I help you create a brand of your own unique, real self. Listen in as I have conversations with amazing people from all over the world. Good morning, Sara Varney. How are you going on this wonderful, beautiful morning?
Excellent. Thank you. How about yourself?
I am excellent. Thanks for asking. It's a great pleasure to connect with you. Please do tell us, what part of the world are you in right now?
I'm in New England, in the USA.
Oh, that's great. And which of your talents is responsible for us meeting?
I'm a podcaster.
Yeah. Tell us about your podcast, please.
So I am the co-host of Disney Every Week with the Passporter Moms. We are a Disney-focused podcast. We are two moms who talk about Disney and our travels around the world and what it's like to travel both with kids and without. And we're on episode 405. We've been doing it for over 7 years now.
Wow, congratulations. I think you're the longest holding title holder thus far that I've spoken to.
Yeah, I'm
great.
an OG podcaster.
Boom. That's what we're talking about. So I was listening to the episode you guys just released, which is pretty fascinating, which is definitely, so I have a financial coach background. So when you said saving finances, it's like, yeah, let's listen to that, right?
Budgeting. It's important. Yeah.
It is, especially with the
in life
prices.
and in Disney.
Yeah, especially in Disney.
Exactly.
You guys really unpacked what's going on there in terms of the price increases, and then you share, right? I mean, well, tell us what you do.
So, we talk a little bit, every episode, it's a different topic, and we sort of do wide-ranging topics, but our most recent podcast was about sort of, how to save money for Disney, how to sort of budget for your trip appropriately, and more importantly than anything else, how to prioritize what you spend your money on. I always say that your vacation is an investment, and just like any other investment, it needs to be researched properly and prioritized properly and protected properly. So that was our most recent episode.
Yeah, love it. Hey, what's the name of your co-host?
Jennifer Marks.
There
She
we
is
go.
the author of the Passporter series of guidebooks for Disney World.
Love it. So you all are doing some amazing things. Who did you learn the skill from? The skill specifically of breaking challenging things down into smaller pieces so others can definitely benefit.
So, that's a great question. I have to say, you sent me the questions, which I appreciate. And this was the one I had the hardest time with because it's difficult to sort of articulate. But I would say, I had a fantastic education growing up here in the Northeast and, attended some great schools and was always taught that the first impression that people get from you is the way that you communicate and how articulate you are. And so it was always drummed into me at a very early age that it was important to communicate clearly and with authority and to be as articulate as possible. So I took those skills and figured out a way to sort of create a career out of it, if you will.
Yeah. It's definitely a career, right? Well, do tell me, why will you continue? This is a big question, right?
Yeah, it is a big question. I love it. I love the interaction that we get with our listeners. We have a Facebook page where, our listeners can interact with us and ask questions. We do Facebook Live videos periodically, particularly if we're traveling, so that our fans can follow along with us and really get to know us. And I think that's the most important part of being a good podcaster is that people really feel like they get to know you. And the number one feedback we get all the time from our listeners is that they talk back to us as they're listening. They talk as though they're, in their car and they're talking back to the radio. And so I think that's it's so gratifying to have that connection with people and to know, that we've either helped them in some way or that they've gotten something out of listening to us. And so it's this great cycle where I feel like we give them something, but they give us so much back, probably more, I think, than we give them in some ways.
Well, Sara, tell me one other thing that you've done consistently over the last 3 years.
So the most important thing I think I do, and the most important thing, at the end of the day, at the end of my life, if somebody says, well, she did this, about a little more than 5 years ago now, I didn't create the concept, but for the podcast, we started a program called the Random Acts of Pixie Dust Project. This is a random acts of kindness project. And again, I didn't come up with the idea. I just came up with the name.
Right.
Pixie dust, of course, being our Disney connection. And so this is an important part of my life. It's an important part of our podcast, where we really encourage small, everyday acts of kindness. And it happened that I came up with the idea about a week and a half prior to the Sandy Hook shootings here in Connecticut. And after that happened, we were so affected, I think, as a country, and especially in this area, by that tragedy that day, that kindness became just a really important part of daily lives, and that sense of connection that it gives you with people. And so we talk about the random acts of pixie dust that we do, and we ask our listeners to share if they've performed random acts of pixie dust, or if they've been the recipients of random acts of pixie dust. And so it's become a real sort of theme for our podcast.
That's great. That's great. I love that. Moving from strength to strength. How does it make you feel?
Grateful. Just grateful is the best word I can come up with for it, because we're all so busy these days, right? Everybody is overscheduled and everybody is overworked. And if you have a family or you don't have, everybody's got jobs and commitments. And so for me to feel like I can create the space and the time to where I can take a moment and stop focusing on myself and my stuff and everything that I've got going on, and just redirect that energy to someone else, particularly in an anonymous fashion. I try to do mine anonymously because it's not about getting the immediate thanks for it. It's really just more about the act of doing it. So whenever I take the time and make it a priority, I just wind up really being more aware of how lucky I am that I'm in a position to do that I have the extra, couple bucks to buy somebody else's coffee, that I have the time, to take and volunteer my time, or even just something as simple as, just having the awareness to smile at somebody else, to make eye contact with somebody else, to make a connection with somebody else, to try to brighten their day. And again, in the end, it winds up being kind of selfish, because I'm the one that really reaps the benefit. I'm the one that winds up feeling better at the end of the day. But hopefully I improved their day a little bit too.
Yeah, I think it's the best model of selfish if I had to choose one.
Right, exactly. Yeah, if you're going to be selfish, that's
if I'm
the
going
way
to be selfish, let me help someone else so that I can feel better. I love that. Yeah. Well, amazing audience, we are live with Sara Varney. She is the podcast host of Disney Every Week with the Passporter Moms. Do check that out. Fun stuff right there, believe me. Sara, let's switch gears for a moment now, and let me invite you into my time machine that is surrounded with beautiful, warm, blue Caribbean water. Sara, what is your earliest childhood memory?
Oh, hang on. I'm still in the Caribbean in the warm waters right now. My earliest memory is probably my little sister being born. I was about 3. So that's my clearest memory as a child.
Interesting. So why do you think this memory is so clear at the age of 3?
So actually, it was not, no offense to my sister, but it had little to do with her and more to the fact that I was very, very, very ill, actually. When my sister was born, I had some kind of virus, and I don't know what it was, but it was one of those viruses that kids get where they have this crazy high fever and they just get so sick. And so in the middle of that stress and turmoil, my sister decided to make an appearance. And so I just remember being very sort of confused as to, where my mother was and why she wasn't here taking care of me. And, luckily I had a phalanx of family members, to surround and come in and help out and take care of me. But I just sort of remember the stress of that time. And then, at the end of it, there was this, small, squishy person, and I really didn't understand what all the fuss was about. That's why my mother wasn't here for
I love it. Well, can I offer an interpretation to the thought picture you created in my mind?
Sure.
I love the idea that the stress that you felt at that point in time and the model of selflessness you live in connects. And that looks like, hey, Disney World can definitely be stressful if you are not knowing what you're doing, right? Like really stressful, especially for what could be a small thing, right? Like it's fun. You're going to have fun.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, being prepared and having someone that can help you through that stressful moment can make it so much better, so much more appreciative. And the fact that you are doing that together with your co-host for so many other people in so many other ways, even the pixie dust, if you would, is pretty fascinating.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Disney World, people don't think of Disney World as being a stressful place, but it can be. There's a lot of stimulation, a lot of noises and smells and sights, and, it's a lot to take in. And a little preparation goes a really long way. So thank you for that.
You're welcome. If we fast forward to when you were 12 years old, what was your favorite song?
So I had to do a little research on this one. I had to, all right, well, how 12? That would have been 1986. Okay, now I have to go to Google. And then as soon as I saw the song, I remembered it was Mad About You by Belinda Carlisle. And I just remember playing it over and over and over and over and over on that cassette deck that I had in my bedroom. Yes, I'm dating myself now.
That's cool. Well, it's fascinating how you could connect these things, right? I mean, hey, your sister came in at a time that, you were really mad about you, right?
That's great. Yep, there you go.
Well, Sara, we have arrived at our destination, but before we get off of this time machine, there's a small declaration form, so it's yes or no, possibly a bit more. Okay. We're going to go pretty quickly here, roller coaster style, right?
All right, I'm ready.
Sara, have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to?
No.
Are you married?
Yes.
Do you have children?
1.
Do you believe in God?
Not in the typical definition.
Do you have an inner circle of friends?
Yes.
Do you watch TV for more than 3 hours a day?
I watch probably almost exactly 3 hours a day.
Wow. What about screen time, the phone and or the computer? More than 8 or less than 8 hours a day?
Oh, more.
All right. Sara, after having 1,001 conversations in 3 months in 2016, I needed to get plastic surgery for my butt, and that's my joke. No. I came up with a workbook. The name of the workbook is called Yours, and it stands for your own unique real self. And as you dig into that, you get into your own unique real statement, your mission. If you had to share with us, Sara, your own unique real statement, something that represents Sara Varney, what would you say that is?
This is an easy one because I say it all the time on my podcast. I always joke I'm having t-shirts made. My personal philosophy is do less, enjoy more.
Love it. Sara Varney, this was a great pleasure. Before you leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
I think that these conversations are so important, and the more you get to know different people. I've been listening to some of your 12-minute conversations, and I love, sort of the diversity of who you've been speaking to and some of the ideas that have been floated. And I just think that there's so much more good in this world than we recognize, and these conversations are a great way to highlight that. So thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of it.
Hey, you are welcome. This has been my pleasure. Sara Varney, thank you for being on What is Inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. Thank you for being on 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. Stay tuned for more from our advertisers.
Diabetes is a mountain pandemic. It's a disease that's not acute but chronic. Similar to this rhyming method, I have simplified the definition, the signs and symptoms, and the complications of diabetes for both adults and children in my books, Poems for Patients, A Focus on Diabetes, and The ABCs of Diabetes for Children. These books are available on Amazon.com, and for more information, you can visit my website, poemsbyaj.com. That's poemsbyaj.com.